The fourth part of the framework, very quickly then, I think is the most important. You're the customer, you'll decide, is to not confuse employees with two sets of books. And I have finance people in the room, I don't mean to get you scared. What I mean is, you have on one side your personal life, and then you have your work life. And the problem is people tend to compartmentalize those. And in their work life, they treat people a certain way, time a certain way, money a certain way. And then they come home and they treat them differently. And then they get confused. Am I at work? I'm at home? I'm in the car? Which one am I at? Whatever. So what am I talking about? At work, people are what? What do we call people? This is it's a great acronym. What do we talk? Loud and clear. FTE, which means? I've never figured out what they're equivalent to. It's like two sandwiches and a beer. I think it's like 37 and a half hours or something, but that's what you want to go through your life as. Here he comes, 37 and a half hours. That's, okay? Or full-time employee, sometime I've heard, but the equivalent is usually the term. And then, because then they're dehumanized. Then they're not really people. And then you can lay off 5,000 of them at a time and not blink. Well, it's like those bad, see, I'm from New Jersey, so you have to be careful. It's like those bad Godfather movies, right? So I grew up in Chicago and I live in New Jersey, so it's like an integral part of my culture. But then they always say, well, you know, we had to kill Vito, but it's purely business. It was nothing personal, right? Well, that's how most American industry talks, right? I mean, they just, you know, laid off 5,000 FTEs. Well, but these are people, right? So in your life, people mean people. When you get home, people mean something. Here's, you know, Biff and Muffy, and I've got to get them to soccer practice or whatever. They've got to go to, you know, my girls grew up, it was like gym, swim, ballet. I'll never forget that. We had this little lineup we had to do. So these are people. Now the sad part about your life is that you spend more time with the people at work than you do with the people at home. So you better treat those people really like a family and work with them that way. Another part is time. I've gotten to this point in my life where I am really running out of patience with meetings that start 5, 10 minutes late. Because you're saying what to people when you do that? You're not important. Now, you just saw all these charts this morning about costs and things like that. There's a cost right there. And sometimes people are going to say to you, hey, I'm not paying for that. I'm not paying for these people to sit around 5 or 10 minutes late. I mean, I've been at presentations where we've gone to somebody's facility and they've literally said, gee, we'd like you to take you around the building. And I'm kind of a nervous presenter. I'll say, well, no, I'm ready to go on here. We've got to check that the mic works or whatever. You know, and you turn it off before you go to the men's room or something. But they'll say, oh, no, all our meetings start 10 minutes late. Well, you just can't do that. And it reminded me of a situation with my younger daughter. She came home one day with this note about a softball team. And I grew up in Chicago, so I know very little about successful professional sports, but I was a great baseball fan, and she sort of got me back into baseball, which was just punishment this year. But anyway, she said, you know, Dad, you travel an awful lot. Will you be able to get me to this practice? Because I'm going to do this tryout at 4 o'clock on Thursday. I said, yes, I'll be there. And she said, then you need to read this note that the coach sent us. See what you think of this note. Well, the note basically said, you know, your daughter wants to be on this team. We want to have your daughter on the team, and we're a team, and teams are important, blah, blah, blah. But the practice starts at 4 o'clock. And to show respect for the team, we will start the practice at 4 o'clock. So if you show up at 4:05, don't get out of the car. Turn right around and go home, because we're not going to stop practice and repeat everything. Right? Have you all been in meetings like that? Well, let me catch you up from where we know. I was here. Where were you? So this coach literally said, don't show up. If you get here at 4:05, don't get out of the car, go home. And all I could think of was growing up in Chicago, where we had this sort of semi-professional football team, the Bears. And the funny thing about growing up in Chicago was, and this was really strange when you think about it, when the games were sold out, they would black them out. Usually when games are sold out, they will be on television. But when I was growing up, the Bears games, they played in Wrigley Field. First of all, none of you are old enough, right, to remember this, but the Bears played in Wrigley Field, which was wonderful because the receivers would go out for a long pass and crash into a cement wall. It was very entertaining. Because it was this little tiny football stadium. They'd, throw a long pass. The person would get to the end zone, bang, here'd be a brick wall they'd run right into. So they'd black these games out. So you couldn't watch the Bears games. You could watch, though, this little team that played in the suburbs of Chicago, which was the Green Bay Packers. So I then watched the Green Bay Packers growing up in the 1960s. Now, the Green Bay Packers, tough to say in Dallas, had absolutely the greatest football coach of all time. Interestingly, he was an assistant coach with Tom Landry on the New York Giants, right? Can you imagine that? That was what they said. That was what the coach that they said of the Giants at the time, who was sort of some like a brain-dead idiot. But he had these two. He used to walk down the hallway, and here was Tom Landry coaching the defensive squad of the Giants. And here in the other room is Vince Lombardi coaching the offense. Boy, you then just take the rest of the week off, right? So anyway, why do you say he's the greatest coach? And again, from Chicago, I know nothing about sports. But what Lombardi did was he took this team, which I think when he took it over was like 1-10 or something, right? They'd beaten one team the year before. I think it was Our Lady of Perpetual Suffering. They'd beaten, the Nuns had sort of worn out in overtime, and the Packers had beaten them. And the next year, they're, I think 500. And then the next year, they were NFL champions. And today, those players from that team could probably beat the Chicago Bears of today, right? But Lombardi had this expression, which was Lombardi time, which was if you were 10 minutes early to a meeting, you were 15 minutes late. So all I could think of when my daughter brought this note home was, Becky will not only be there at 4 o'clock, but you'll be warmed up, you'll have thrown, you'll have stretched, you'll have run, you'll be ready to go. It's not, where's my glove? I can't find my shoes. Who's got my sweater? Is this in the dryer? That sort of a discussion, right? We're going to be ready to go because I'll back you up on this. So that's what I was thinking about. And I contrasted that with where you get into work and people are, wandering around aimlessly. Meetings are never starting. I'm sitting in the room all the time. And you've got other stuff that you could do. So that's people means something, time means something, and the last one is money means something. All right, so at home, you've got these things to pay, you've got bills to pay, you've got this. I'll never forget this again. My wife comes home. I know it's hard for you to believe, but one time I got this company award, which was about 2 weeks of salary. They gave you an award that was equivalent to about 2 weeks of salary. So they put it directly deposited, and I'm coming home that day feeling really good, and it's a little bit less than 2 weeks of salary, and my wife meets me at the door and says, what the hell have you done now? What is it? Look, I pay these bills in advance, expecting this check to be here. This check comes in. I just got this slip. It's less than normal. What did you do? Is this more contributions to United Way, or, what did you do, or whatever? I said, honey, it's net extra. It's a bonus. Oh, go to your room. Okay. So, but money was important, right? Is important. You go to work, people, it's this or that, or we're over this, or we're over that, we're spending this, we're spending that, whatever. I mean, I love Federal Express, but the amount of money corporations spend on Federal Express is remarkable. The #1 day of the week to send packages by Federal Express is Friday. So it gets there Saturday. You go into most American corporations, maybe yours, and you go in on Saturday morning and you will see at the security desk a stack of Federal Express envelopes and a Dunkin' Donuts box, right, with a security guard. But you could have sent them, but nothing wrong with sending them Federal Express. Send them Federal Express 2 days. And then it gets there Monday, and you paid about half the price. But no, you've paid full price to get it there Saturday. But it's absolutely, we did a lot of studies with Federal Express. So anyway, that's this framework. So customer focus, integral to your organization, keep good, clear communications, avoid acronyms and jargon. Treat your customers as a valuable natural resource. Focus on your existing customers to help you get new customers, and then have one set of books so you don't confuse your employees. Treat people as people. Treat them as your family. Treat time as important, because it is. You won't get any more of it. And then treat money as if it's your money, because in fact it is your money.